time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 221, and I am your host, Beem Weeks, and with me is Mr. Stephen Gies, dialing it in tonight. How you doing tonight, Stephen?
Aggravated with microphones not working right, but doing well otherwise. You know, we didn't get to have a show last week with Dave Hooker, so we're going to try to get him back on here again in the next couple of weeks, talking about his college football book, Celebrate 98, about Tennessee Volunteers. But, we've got a good guest tonight, somebody we're familiar with. I got a couple of announcements. The First Ladies, which is Abigail H. Eugenie and Mary L. Smalls, they're having a book signing the day after tomorrow from 3 to 5 p.m. at South Carolina State University in the foyer of the new engineering building. You can buy your book on site, get them signed, get your picture taken. Boy, what a great thing to do on a Friday afternoon, South Carolina State University. We've also got a book that just came out this week, didn't we, Beem?
We have. Let's see here. We have
How about Dealing with
Bargain.
Grief by Verwain Greenhow.
Okay, that's okay. I got you down for saying that one. So Dealing with Grief is out now by Verwain Greenhow, as is yesterday the release of A Noble Bargain by Jan Sykes. That is out now. So you can see we've been very, very busy here at Fresh Ink Group. And these are all available for you. So get over to Amazon and grab your copies of Verwain's book is Dealing with Grief. He's worked as a EMT. He's worked in the as an emergency room nurse, and he's witnessed grief and the way people handle grief and deal with it. And he's got some wisdom that he's sharing with people who are struggling with grief. And there's some stories in there and some poignant how to kind of get around that stuff. And, grab a copy. If you need some help with that, grab a copy. And if you want a really good story, grab a copy of A Noble Bargain by Jan Sykes.
Yeah, that's the second book in her Bargainers series, following A Beggar's Bargain. A Noble Bargain is the second one. She's working on the third one right now, and she's out there touring, doing a blog tour, and really getting a lot of attention for that. So that's A Noble Bargain by Jan Sykes.
Woohoo! All right. Hey, if you want to be a part of tonight's show, we would love to hear from you. Call us with your questions, your comments, or hit us up on X. And here's how you can go about doing that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest. Or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
Be there.
We've got more books out, too. Angie Birmingham's Journey Through the Lens, a creative guide to wildlife photography, is out there. This is a how-to book. This is for real photography, understanding how to use your camera and do bokeh backgrounds and movement and glow and all that kind of cool stuff. So if you want to learn the next level of wildlife and outdoor flowers, plants, insects, animals, that kind of photography, Journey Through the Lens by Angie Birmingham is out now.
Also out now is Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow by Nell Cooper. This is a novel, a love story. There's some tragedy in there, and it's based around a real-life home in Michigan here that dealt with handicapped people and whatnot back in the day. And Nell is out there really working it. Author Nell Cooper, she's out there really working it. She's got a lot of events that she's doing. She's her book's being put into libraries. She's having events at libraries, local bookstores. She's doing signings, meet and greets, and all that kind of good stuff. So if you happen to be in one of the areas where Nell is at, and we post a lot of these in our newsletter, be sure to drop in and get a copy, say hi, and if you get this book, you're going to really enjoy it. I've read it. I've reviewed it. It's a 5-star book in my review. So get out there. Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow by Nell Cooper.
You know, she's in the Thumb area of Michigan, not that far from Flint. So if you're in the Thumb area of Michigan, you definitely want to check out some of these events. We got another book that's out. This one's only been out for a couple of weeks now. The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership. This is by Janelle A. Jordan, DBA. This is a professional development book. It's got some worksheets in there and a whole bunch of daily things to work on, to learn about, to practice, and to improve your leadership skills. So that's by Janelle A. Jordan, DBA, The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership.
And guess what? We have a video, a book trailer for that up on our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, type in Fresh Ink Group, and you will see all of our book trailers. Find old episodes for this show as well. I put that together, and it's up there. It's been up there for a while, so go over there and check that out. It kind of explains what the book is all about. And if you're looking to become a leader in business, Janelle can teach you how to do that. Also out this now is Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch by Carlisle Toms. This is a story, a novel set in the late 1960s during the Summer of Love. There's all kinds of tomfoolery about and shenanigans and people who exhibit old behaviors from back in the day that, you know, you got to get past those. The whole civil rights thing takes place during this time, and that starts to set things straight. And Carlisle's a wonderful author, so Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch by Carlisle Toms. Go grab a copy.
Yeah, we've also got some new books out by Robert G. Williscroft, who happens to be tonight's guest. Got a couple of Hort Chronicles, Keed and Rand, and another Mac McDowell mission, Vela Redux, plus he's got a couple more in the works here. We're going to bring him on to talk a little bit, and, you know, we can never get him to talk about his books, but we'll go ahead and ask him about these anyway and see if he's got something to say.
All right. So if you've missed any kind of news on this show about the books that we got coming out, about book trailers, anything to do with indie writing, indie publishing, Fresh Ink Group, Voice of Indie, we've got a newsletter that's cram-packed full of these little bits of news, and it's a quick read. It's a 20-minute or less read. It comes to your email box every Wednesday morning, and we're not going to, you know, have you sitting there all morning into the afternoon trying to read this thing. It's quick, it's efficient, and it'll keep you up to date on what's going on. And here's how you can subscribe if you're not already subscribed.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of freshinkgroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What? All right,
let's take a quick look at the top 25 print bestsellers from Fresh Ink Group over the past week. The bottom 10, slots 16 through 25 are, this 15. But anyway, the bottom 10 slots are all tied. So I'm going to run through those 10 real quick. We've got How to Teach Driving, the Instructor's Edition by Kenneth Lindquist. Crimes and the People Who Commit Them, Fiction with Conviction by the guy who did the time, and that's Phil Lippert, and he actually did a couple of decades in prison, so he knows what he's writing. We got Mark Marlowe's thriller, Operation Counterpunch. And, of course, we got Dr. Helen Burrell's American Agony, the opioid war against patients in pain. We've got both editions of Dick Farrer Jr.'s The Rise and Fall of a Construction Giant, the history, people, and stories of CFW construction. Both the paperback and the hardcover are tied for each other on this list right now. That's a cool book. That's about a company in Fayetteville, Tennessee that got really, really big and then got caught up in scandals and deaths and plane crash and all kinds of stuff, too. We've got Figuratively Speaking, Thesaurus of Expressions and Phrases by J. Ash Looney, and another by Helen Burrell, The Hippocampus, the Interactive Brain Book, Fun Learning for Science Lovers. Now, the other two that are tied in the bottom part of this list, a couple of Mac McDowell Mission books, Robert G. Williscroft's Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell Mission, and Operation Icebreaker, a Mac McDowell Mission. Those are both in the last slots on this top list. Now, we're going to move up here. The next 5 are tied. Those are The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, the hardcover edition, and who's that by, Beem?
That would be Mark Herndon, the drummer of the Country Music Hall of Fame supergroup Alabama. He was there for 28 years, banging the skins, as they say.
As they say. We've also got Angie Birmingham's Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Nature Photography, and it's the hardcover edition. That's a big book, 8.5 by 11, case laminate. It's very cool. We've also got Celebrate 98, The Untold Stories Behind the Tennessee Football Vols' 1998 National Championship by Dave Hooker. And the other two that are tied in this group, Pandemonium in Puzzle Town by B.A. Johnson. That's an illustrated chapter book for children about inclusion and acceptance. And then, of course, Jan Sykes' A Beggar's Bargain. That's the first book in her Bargainers series. And A Noble Bargain that just came out literally 2 days ago. I'm going to see if that's in the top part of our list here. Now, moving up. The numbers are starting to go up here. The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, A Guide to Leading Authentically by Janelle A. Jordan, DBA. That's her hardcover edition. Above that, the hardcover edition of Jan Sykes' A Noble Bargain. And tied with it is the paperback edition of Noble Bargain. So congratulations, Jan. Your second book in your Bargainers series is climbing up the list. Now, Robert G. Williscroft is next up here. We're up to the top 7. Operation Velarita, a Mac McDowell mission. That's the newest book by Williscroft, and if we can cajole him into actually talking about some of his books today, we'll probably hear about Operation Velarita. Above that, paperback edition of Mark Herndon's The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. And then here's another book that Robert G. Williscroft participated in. This is by retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate. It's a 60-chapter memoir called Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat. And right now, that is in our number 5 bestseller slot among print books. Number 4, you ask? Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Nature Photography. She's been starting to get some nice reviews for that book, too. We're getting some great feedback on that. Angie Birmingham, she really knows what she's doing. If you're interested in learning photographer from her, she does workshops and stuff, especially if you're in South Texas. She's not far from Corpus Christi. That brings us to our top 3, Beam. Mel Cooper, paperback edition, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. Wow. When I started this 2 days ago, that was in the number 1 slot. Right now it's in the number 3 slot. There's 2 other books that have been nudging above it.
Well, she's been out there working it.
Yeah. Number 2, Abigail H. Ugini and Mary L. Smalls, Mr. President, I've Got Your Back, the First Ladies of South Carolina State University. Again, you can pick up a copy of that if you're anywhere near South Carolina State Friday afternoon. Stop in the engineering building's foyer, meet these ladies, pick up a copy of the book, get some autographs, and probably sip some tea, who knows. But, Mr. President, I've Got Your Back is about South Carolina State University's First Ladies. They are, Abigail is working on the second book in that series now, and this will be Alabama A&M. Yeah, Alabama A&M University, which is in the Huntsville area. So she's working on the First Ladies of that. That gets us to what's our number 1 print bestseller this week, Beam. You care to guess?
Mark Herndon?
By Janelle A. Jordan.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, A Guide to Leading Authentically. Paperback edition is our number 1 print bestseller this week. Congratulations.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, Janelle.
Pushed a couple of real contenders down a couple of spots. So congratulations to everybody. Again, like I say every week, if you didn't make the top 25, yours is probably at 26. But that's as far as we went.
Yeah. And remember, Janelle A. Jordan, that book, we've got a book trailer over there on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Fresh Ink Group and go to our channel and see a big plethora of videos. Coming soon, we've got Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service. This is a memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama, and it's got some photos in it and some stories of what it was like for her to be in there. And we've also got Trains of Alabama by Braden Dexter Green. This is coming out soon, and we've got videos for those coming up, but tonight we've got the audio commercial for Braden's book and the audio commercial for Jan Sykes' A Noble Bargain, since that came out yesterday. We're going to hammer that home to you. So get over to Amazon, grab a copy of A Noble Bargain by Jan Sykes, and in the meantime, have a listen to the new world premiere of Trains of Alabama.
Teenager Braden Dexter Green has traveled North Alabama, collecting photos of his favorite trains and railroad settings. From the peculiar freight engines of Amtrak to the beautiful heritage units of Norfolk Southern to the new rebuilds of CSX locomotives, Braden chronicles both the commonplace and unusual trains crisscrossing the state, carrying passengers and freight in Trains of Alabama. He takes a close look at some notable short lines, such as the Alabama and Tennessee River Railroad out of Gadsden and the Huntsville and Madison County Railroad Authority, which locks down its engines in the downtown area of Huntsville. Backgrounds include Birmingham's famous Sloss furnaces and several notable rail yards, including the CSX Boyles Yard in Tarrant, the Norfolk Southern Norris Yard in Irondale, and the BNSF East Thomas Yard in Birmingham. Featuring an introduction by renowned wildlife photographer and author of Journey Through the Lens, Angie Birmingham, Trains of Alabama is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group worldwide in a case laminate hardcover edition with premium color printing, a glossy softcover edition with standard color, and all ebook editions. Order copies for yourself and fans of railroad photography. It's the images that are the stars here, those mighty trains that move the world, even as they inspire the passions of one teen who shares his favorites in Trains of Alabama. A true testament of character, resilience, and the magic of never giving up. The year is 1948, and folks in the sawmill town of Crossett, Arkansas, work hard and play hard. Oliver Quinn does both. Oliver is the son of Irish immigrants who firmly believe in pursuing the American dream. His deepest desire is to play Major League Baseball. He only needs one chance to prove himself. Rose Blaine is living in a nightmare where dreams don't exist. She's suffered for years at the hands of her violent moonshiner father and his partner. During a brutal attack, she must fight back or die. The aftermath is devastating. Fueled by desperation, Rose strikes a life-changing bargain with Oliver. If he'll take her and her brother to St. Louis, Missouri, she'll introduce Oliver to her uncle, a baseball legend. While their journey is fraught with unseen perils, they forge an unbreakable bond and make surprising allies. When destiny throws them a curveball, they must find the courage to create a hopeful future out of the ashes of shattered dreams with newfound fortitude. Read A Noble Bargain, Book 2 following A Beggar's Bargain in the Bargainer series by best-selling author Jan Sykes. A Beggar's Bargain and A Noble Bargain are available worldwide from multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. The Bargainer series by Jan Sykes.
All right, yeah. Did we mention that that book came out yesterday? Get over to Amazon. Yeah. There's a bunch of copies over there waiting for you to get your grubby little hands on. Before we move on, I do want to also mention another book that we got coming up in the pipeline, and it is Matt's Murder by Patricia A. Guthrie. I'm currently editing that, and Patricia is one of my favorite writers. She really is. I love working on her stuff. She's an accomplished writer. She's a wonderful storyteller, and this one's looking like it's going to be another fantastic book. So keep your eyes and ears on the podcast and on the newsletter. Matt's Murder by Patricia A. Guthrie, coming soon.
All right, over on X Twitter, we got a couple of comments from Verwayne Greenhoe. He says, thanks for mentioning my book. That would be Dealing with Grief. The wife and I are gathered around the CB radio channel 37 with the dogs listening to the show. He also says, I bought the paperback version of Angie Birmingham's Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Nature Photography for a friend of mine who worked for me as a photographer at the Crystal Motor Speedway, and she said she loves it. Yeah, we talked to Verlaine about that. She's really liking that book. It's cool. I mean, it's full of all kinds of cool techniques, things to try, and you take it with you out in the field and just, look it up. How do I get that blurry background?
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, I didn't hit this archive bumper here, so I'm going to hit that. It's a short one. If you've kind of missed one of our episodes, don't worry. If you got a favorite episode, a favorite guest that's been on, don't worry. We've got an archive, and here's how you can find what's in those archives.
Find your favorite show in the Voice of Indie archives on YouTube at Fresh Ink Group, StephenGees.com, BeamWeeks.com, FreshInkGroup.com, and on Spotify. And now you can listen on iHeartRadio and tune in. Just search The Voice of Indie, all one word.
All right, let's get cracking. We've got a guest to meet. Dr. Robert G. Williscroft is a retired submarine officer, deep sea and saturation diver, scientist, author of 19 books and hundreds of articles, and a lifelong adventurer. He spent 22 months underwater. That's a long time to hold your breath. A year at the equatorial Pacific, 3 years in the Arctic ice pack, and a year at the geographic South Pole. He holds degrees in marine physics and meteorology, yeah, okay, and a doctorate for developing a system to protect scuba divers in contaminated water. A prolific author of both nonfiction, Cold War thrillers, and hard science fiction, he lives in Centennial, Colorado with his family. Dr. Williscroft is a member of the Colorado Authors League, Science Fiction Writers of America, Libertarian Futurist Society, Los Angeles Adventurers Club, Mensa, Military Officers Association of America, American Legion, and the NRA. He spends most of his time writing his next book. We can attest to that. Speaking to various regional groups and hanging out with the girl of his dream, Jill, and her two cats. And yes, he is a very prolific author, and we are always glad to have him on. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Robert G. Williscroft.
Well, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
So tell us how many more books have you written in the last week?
Actually, I didn't write any books in the last week, but the week before I wrote 3.
Wow. Okay.
Cool. All right. Now, before we get into talking about your different series and the books in those and, what your future plans are and stuff, let's talk a little bit about your promotion, because you've been on the show before. Most of our listeners know who you are and, that you're out in Colorado and stuff like that. But I like the fact that you get out there. You go to Mile High Con, you rent tables and booths and things like that. What have you been up to in promotion lately?
Well, in 2 days, I go to Mile High Con. That's a 3-day convention. It's the biggest science fiction convention in Denver. And not long after that, we have something called the Colorado Country Christmas Show that used to be in the convention center and is now where they hold rodeos. But it's going to be also for 3 days selling books as a group from the Colorado Authors League. We all get together. We set up a bookstore where all of the books are on display, and then every author spends 2-3 hours every day manning a table along with 4 or 5 other authors, and it's a lot of fun, and I always sell a whole bunch of books there, so that's cool. There's a town up in the mountains called Georgetown. It's a delightful little village that is a throwback to the way things used to be, and we'll be spending a couple of weekends up there selling books in their Christmas show. Now, I had a little bit of time in the hospital for a neck problem, and while I was at physical therapy, there was this fella. He was older than me, and that takes a lot. And he was working out and talking with people, kind of a lively guy, and we got to talking, and it turned out that he was a retired naval officer, and he heads up a group in Denver called the Jewish retired naval officers, and I'm going to be making a presentation to them in a couple of Sundays from now.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, so having a hurt neck kind of gave you an in.
It kind of did. You know, these are a bunch of geezers who have a background at least overlapping mine, and that'll make it a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that they're going to be interested in reading a lot of the Mac McDowell type of stuff as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Now, Robert, when you go to like Mile High Con and all this stuff, we've got other authors that maybe have never heard of this. What all goes into this? I mean, you know, give some pointers on, do you like set up displays? I mean, how does this work for somebody that maybe has never done this before but is looking to do it?
Well, I purchase a 6-foot long table, and I have a display that I put together a couple of years ago that has a skirt that covers the table and has illustrations of the worlds that I write in on the skirt in front of the table, and then I have a banner up over the table that illustrates more of the universes that I write in. I've got a stand on the table that displays the books, handouts, bookmarks, a bowl of candies to attract people who don't get attracted by cool pictures.
Ooh.
And Jill will spend as much time as I do at the booth because she's capable of attracting a lot more people than I am. And anyway, that's how it goes. And you sell books and talk science fiction in this case, and it works. And I can always pay for the cost, and usually end up having enough left over that I have to pay sales tax to Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now we've got authors that go out and do these kinds of things from time to time, and sometimes they're looking at them as a kind of a profit loss statement. Like, I've spent X amount of money traveling to this event and buying these materials or handing out bookmarks or whatever, versus how many books I sold. I think they're a little bit short-sighted maybe about that kind of stuff, because you go out there, Robert, if you meet your fans, I mean, tell us why you think that's more important than just selling a book.
Yeah.
Well, among other things, I gather names of people to put on my mailing list, even if they don't buy a book. And this way I keep in touch with them, tell them what's going on. But I got to say that I've been doing this now, must be going on 8-9 years, and I have not had one event that I was not profitable.
Great.
Not one. Now, I know there are people who are not profitable who just break even, and part of their problem typically is that they've only got 1 or 2 books to sell, and of course, not that you guys would understand it, but some people say I have the gift of gab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what are some of your interactions with some of these fans?
Let me give you an.
Have you met that super fan yet? The one that's read all of your books and is like eager for the next one?
I have not met him face to face. I don't even know whether he's a teenager or a geezer. I'm guessing he's somewhere in between.
He's a geezer.
He has not responded to Vela Redux yet, but it just hit the stand. So I imagine that he will have something to say about Vela Redux in the next month. Let me tell you about an interaction I had. Let's see, this was 2 years ago, just after the COVID thing, and the organizers of Mile High Con required all of the people who were manning tables to wear masks. So I had a mask on, and this gentleman came up to the table. He was a good-looking, 60s-something black gentleman, just looked an awful lot like Morgan Freeman. You know, just had that kind of a presence. He didn't have a mask on. And out of deference to him, I slipped my mask off so that we could talk person to person. And we were discussing my books and science fiction. And the convention had hired a couple of kids to roam around and make certain that everything was going right. And one of these kids decided that he was a mask cop. And when he saw me with my mask off, man, it was amazing. He was threatening to throw me out, revoke my credentials, on and on. It was an interesting situation. We finally got it resolved. But what was interesting is that when the manager came to talk to me and say what's going on, the author sitting next to me, who writes historical science fiction, interrupted our conversation to describe what he had seen, which was a complete exoneration of my own actions during that interaction.
So did the Morgan Freeman guy have the Morgan Freeman voice?
Yeah, probably not quite, but it was his voice and his demeanor that made me think of Morgan Freeman.
That could have been your next voiceover guy.
Ha.
So do you have any like handouts or anything that you use when you make these appearances? You give out bookmarks or anything?
I have something called rack cards. They're normally used in motels, restaurants, and they're placed in a wire rack, and they advertise local events and local venues for entertainment and so on. And I make these up for each of my series. They describe the books on the back. It's a full color illustration on the front, and I'm handing those out continuously along with my tent-shaped personal business card that also has pictures of all my books on it.
Okay. What kind of expenses are those?
Well, they cost 2-3 cents a piece for the cards, and for the business cards, a fraction of a cent a piece.
Yeah,
it's
so very, very negligible.
Yeah, it's compared to what I get from it, it doesn't cost much.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Beem, I think we need to play a couple of commercials here, don't we?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that. We're going to take a break, throw a couple of ads in here for you to consider, and we will be right back.
In Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Wildlife Photography, celebrated wildlife photographer Angie Birmingham introduces burgeoning photo takers to their photo equipment and helps them develop the techniques for stunning outdoor photography. From mastering exposure to optimizing focus and lighting, Angie shows how to find the right styles to tell visual stories and present compelling images. Learn landscape composition along with the best ways to shoot animals, birds, and flowers. Find out how skilled photographers capture all the details while manipulating backgrounds and moods. Order a digital copy in your favorite ebook format or collect a print edition in full-size paperback or case laminate hardcover. Available worldwide from your favorite bookseller. From newcomers to professionals, everybody who loves taking wildlife pictures will thrill at how easy Angie Birmingham makes it for you to continue your own journey through the lens.
It's 1967, and promiscuous small-town girl Lavella can't wait to get away from her controlling mother to make her own life. She hooks up with Earl, an ugly hippie, rebelling against his rich father. At a time of severe racial tensions and the burgeoning civil rights movement, Earl whisks her off to San Francisco to experience the summer of love. Acid trips, a gay love affair, and deep betrayal eventually lead to Lavella's pregnancy, with a biracial child that Earl will accept, but which Earl's father won't. Lavella quickly discovers there is more to her mother's control than she ever could have imagined. Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is a rich family saga by Carlisle Toms, author of The Calling Dream and Edge of Smoke. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats.
All right.
We're talking to Robert G. Williscroft, and if you want to call in and with a question or a comment for Robert, the phone number is 516-436-5600. 453-9902. The phones are live right now. We've got celebrities over here in the phone bank. You could maybe get Tom Hanks or somebody like that to answer. You never know. So call in. Talk to Robert G. Williscroft.
We do have a caller on hold, so.
Yeah, so let's see what the caller has to say.
All right. This is a caller from, I believe, Virginia. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Right. I'm John Roseman. Full disclosure here, I'm a friend and pal of Robert.
And you've been on this show before.
Mr. Roseman.
Hey, John.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good, and nice to hear from you.
I'm glad to call in, and it's good to hear your voice too. They said something. You and I have disagreed occasionally, and the remark that you have spent 22 months underwater helped to clarify why we have a disagreement.
Fair enough.
I had. Incidentally, one thing you were saying, I appreciate. You were asked a question about how you promote at conventions and elsewhere, what paraphernalia you have, and I'm not very good at promoting myself, and I think I should take a couple of your tips. Anyway, I have a couple of questions about your latest novel. First of all, perhaps you might explain why you titled it Operation Vela Redux, the last two words. I know what they mean, but I'd like to have my memory refreshed on that subject.
Not a problem. Now the book takes place in 1989, but prior to that, 10 years prior, in 1979, our Hotel Vela satellite, it was a polar satellite that was put in place to look for nuclear explosions, unauthorized nuclear explosions. It detected a nuclear event off the tip of South Africa near the Prince Edward Islands, and it came to be called the Vela Incident. Now, it was swept under the rug. It turned out that it was a joint operation by Israel and South Africa before apartheid ended, and South Africa supplied the raw materials and the location, and the Israelis did the hard work, built the device, and then they exploded it and ran their tests. Anyway, it was completely swept under the rug. And so as I was fascinated by that whole event and the subsequent things, I decided, in 1989, the world was changing, and my story takes on a new development where the South Africans by themselves are running a test for a small nuke, and that's where Redux comes into play, a replay of Vela. That's the source of the title.
And Vela is a southern constellation, something like that? Any connection there?
Any connection with what?
Vela is a southern constellation, I read.
Well,
no
actually, in this case, Vela was a satellite. It was a polar orbiting satellite. And it was called Hotel Vela. And that's where that came from.
Okay. I'm also curious about, I've talked to you before about this. As a writer, I tend to be a pantser. I make it up on the fly, more or less, and often have to pay the price for doing that. You're more of a plotter. I guess that because looking at your list of characters in your glossary, for example, you're very deliberate, pre-planned, and so on. And I just wonder, has your plotting ever caused you trouble? Did you carefully plow yourself into a kind of a cul-de-sac from which you find it difficult to extricate yourself?
Not only does that happen occasionally, but sometimes one of my characters will stand up and say, I'm not going to do that. this is what I want to do, and that requires my going back into the outline, changing everything from that point to accommodate the character because he simply will not do what I wanted him to do.
I think you've mentioned that before. With Mac, did you ever consider? Mac seems rather courageous to me. Well, he's courageous. He doesn't second guess himself that much. If I had suddenly found myself as a captain of a ship, as if I were a skipper for the first time, I might say to panic and say, heck no, and practically jump into the ocean. Did you ever consider Mac having second thoughts like that?
Yeah, Mac spends sometimes quietly remunerating about what he's doing, what he has done, where he's headed, but he always manages to work through his doubts, and when it's time to present himself to the divers and to the rest of his crew, he's the captain, and the captain can do no wrong.
Yeah. If he can't.
Let me interrupt this conversation briefly to let the listeners know that you, John Rosenman, are the author of the Inspector of the Cross series, which is an absolutely fantastic series of science fiction, and also the Dream Fair series, which I guess is my favorite of your writing. But you guys need to check out John Rosenman's writing, and I'm not saying this for any other reason than I think he's an absolutely super science fiction writer.
Robert, the check is in the mail.
Okay.
Incidentally, I can't resist a brief plug. My latest novel is Breath of Fresh Air, inspired by the fact that I have sleep apnea. And I gave my hero the same health problems that I have. Just one more question, because I'm sure other callers will want their moment or two. I've ordered your book. I don't know what changes you've made. I ordered the paperback copy, and I've read it before publication. One thing that intrigued me, looking it over today, was the epilogue at the end. It's a little teaser. It's not even half a page long, and I guess I'm feeding you the answer here a little bit. What did you intend to achieve by this short, tantalizing epilogue?
That's a good question. I had laid out the role that the South African participants in this experiment played. They survived it. I guess they thought of themselves as being very lucky to have survived it. And I don't like to leave loose ends in my novels unless the loose end is totally connected to the next novel. I did not want them to continue into the next novel, so I put that epilogue in to wrap up their own personal saga.
Yeah. I find generally in reading that for a novel, this is just a generalization, the two most important parts are the very beginning and the very end. And that ending would make just about any reader, in my opinion, want to read the next in the series. It's it's very hard to resist. And it can be one part of what makes it so seductive. It can be interpreted in multiple ways.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I put a lot of thought into that. It wasn't just by chance.
I'm sure it wasn't. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I did post a tweet, and I do love the cover.
Yeah,
Lord, I think it's your best cover yet.
It's really getting a lot of attention.
cool.
It's an eye grabber, attention grabber. Really works well, and I hope readers buy your book. It's a great one.
Well, that makes
a great read.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for calling in, John. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, John.
My pleasure.
All right. So since we've jumped into the Mac McDowell series, how about we play the ad for Mac McDowell?
Let's go.
Now, from Fresh Ink Group and best-selling author Robert G. Williscroft, the Mac McDowell Mission Series. With a security clearance above top secret, Saturation Dive Team Officer in Charge Mac McDowell leads his team into critical Cold War counter-Soviet missions. Watch Mac prove what brave men can achieve under real pressure, the kind that will steal your air and crush the life out of you. In Operation Ivy Bells, it's the summer of 1972 when Mac and his off-the-books deep-water espionage group are conducting a daring undersea wiretapping operation to gather Russian intel and avert World War. Join nuclear submariner Mac McDowell for extreme diving, a battle with giant squid, and more as he risks everything in the most dangerous operation yet. In Operation Icebreaker, Mac McDowell is leading his submarine team for a mission to lay SOSUS arrays under the Arctic ice when they clash with a highly automated Alpha-class Soviet submarine. Overwhelmed by mechanical problems, the Soviet crew abandons their sub near Point Barrow, Alaska. The skipper launches DSR V-1 Mystic so Mac and his crew can board the empty sub and gather intelligence. The arrival of an even more advanced Soviet sub leads to breathtaking underwater clashes, with the specter of war looming. Will Mac and his crew be sunk by the Soviets, or will they safely return to Alaska, where Mac's new love, Kate, anxiously waits? In Operation Arctic Sting, Mac McDowell and his team capture the abandoned Soviet sub. Piloting their prize through the ice pack to the U.S. East Coast, they must evade or confront other Soviet subs trying to recover the ship or sink it. Breathtaking deep-sea clashes erupt, including hand-to-hand combat with Soviet Morskoy Spetsnaz divers under the ice. Too far from Toothus to escape, the Americans are accosted by a 5-ton orca. Will Mac's ship survive long enough to reach friendly waters, or will the men become just another meal for a deadly whale? In Operation Whiteout, Mac McDowell's Toothus tangles with Argentine subs in the South Atlantic, then confronts a Chi-Com sub off Thurston Island. Escorting a Taiwanese sub, Toothus is attacked by a Chinese Han-class sub and a North Korean AIP sub. Will Mac complete his mission, or will he meet his watery grave on the Pacific's abyssal plain? The McDowell Mission series by Robert G. Williscroft is available worldwide in jacketed hardcovers, paperbacks, ebooks from Kindle to Nook and Kobo and more, plus exclusive audiobook editions with music and sound effect. The Mac McDowell Mission series is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Take a breath and dive in for thrilling submarine adventures in every Mac McDowell mission.
Yeah.
All right. That's a great series. And as we've mentioned, the new one, Operation Vela Redux, a Mac McDowell mission, is just come out now. So go ahead and check that book out. And then, Robert, after that, we got Operation Alpha Rogue.
That is correct. Working on it now.
What's that going to be about?
Well, the Alpha submarine that the crew captured and piloted through the Arctic ice pack in Operation Arctic Sting ends up in Mac's possession. I'm not going to say how, although there are hints at the end of Vela Redux. And for those of you who understand the term letter of marque, Mac and his people are going to operate this submarine in the oceans of the world under the protection of a letter of marque issued by the United States President, allowing them to take on opponents that cannot officially be taken on by the United States government.
Officially.
There's that word.
Yeah. Well, that sounds exciting. And the cover's already underway on that. You're already getting it written. So we're looking at, a couple more days this will be out?
Yeah, it might be 4 or 5.
Yeah, uh-huh. All right. Now we're talking Robert G. Williscroft, and there's still room to call in if somebody's got a comment, a question, or an accusation they want to hurl his way. The phone number is 516-453-9902. Now we're going to talk about the Ort Chronicles series. We're going to start with playing the trailer for that.
Discover interstellar drama with Robert G. Williscroft's science fiction series, The Ort Chronicles. In the first chronicle, Icicle, a tensor matrix, Braxton Thorpe has discovered a threat to the entire solar system, but he has a problem. He's dead. Frozen at death, he awakens to find himself uploaded into an electronic matrix. Exploring the larger global net, he discovers the Ort, a distributed electronic entity older than humanity, with an unnerving secret. Aliens wiped out nearly all life on Earth once and are coming back to do it again. The mathematical entity that is Thorpe has to find a way to convince humans of the threat, and in time to do something about it. But how? And what? In the second Ort Chronicle, the Ort Federation to the Stars, Braxton Thorpe passes the Federation chairmanship to former U.S. President John Butler. Thorpe's group offers humanity virtual immortality, but Isidore Orloff and his Udachni enterprises oppose their every move. Phoenix terraforms Mars for more living space, but the Mars Reds prove formidable resistors. In this tense space adventure, Thorpe, his team, and Max the Tabby Cat travel to Proxima Centauri and beyond to the Aster system, 84 light-years distant. Will Thorpe bring together humans and Asterians in their quest for intergalactic travel? Will long life prove more than mere humans can handle? In the third Ort Chronicle, Ran, a civilization in hiding, humans commence a voyage of discovery to the cold spot in the cosmic microwave background. Their first stop is the planet Arcan, orbiting Ran in the constellation Eridanus, where they discover an incipient spacefaring Saurian civilization that has hidden itself from the rest of the galaxy. Arcan has 3 ruling nations: a fascist dictatorship, a primitive theocracy, and a free market republic. The humans are drawn into a rebellion to overthrow the fascist tyrant, and then help thwart the theocratic prophet's ambitions to subjugate Arcan. Told entirely from the Arcan perspective, Ran centers on the human aliens' desire to integrate Arcans into their growing Ort Federation. In the fourth Ort Chronicle, Cade, a lost civilization, Starship Andromeda stops at the Cade Triple Star System on its voyage of discovery and stumbles on a derelict Dyson sphere. The starship is attacked by microbots, scavenging one part of the sphere to repair another. They map the sphere and discover several primitive races inside: humanoid, feline, and saurian. The explorers discover that the Dyson Sphere's star is about to produce a super flare that could destroy all life and even the sphere itself. The explorers mount a major rescue effort to save the uploads and sapient races. Robert G. Williscroft's series, The Ort Chronicles, is available in jacketed hardcovers, softcovers, and all ebook formats, proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Robert G. Williscroft's The Ort Chronicles.
All right. Now, Robert, with the 2 latest in the Ort Chronicles, Ran and Cade, how are these being received?
Quite well. I just did a posting 2 or 3 days ago on Facebook over several Facebook groups that are related to people who read who read regular books and also who read science fiction, and I received just a huge response. Everybody loved the cover and wanted to know more about what was going on and how in the world I came up with that, and on and on. So there's been a lot of very positive response.
Yeah, I've been hard at work on the audio book for Cade. As a matter of fact, I was busy working on Chapter 8 today, so I'm excited to see where this series leads.
One of the things that I find particularly interesting about Cade is the idea that an advanced race would have to be considerably beyond our capabilities, would have such a power-hungry requirement that they would have to enclose their star entirely in order to capture all of the energy that the star emits in order to continue their civilization and their technological process. And that's what a Dyson sphere is, and that's what my explorers discover and what they have to deal with.
Yeah, that's I'm enjoying this immensely. Of course, I've enjoyed all of them. They're fun to work on, and I get to read the story as it goes along. So I'll be throwing a review out for that one when it's finished.
Listen, if it's okay with you guys, I would like to jump back to the Mac McDowell mission series for just a moment, because there is an element in the book Operation Whiteout that I think the listeners would thoroughly enjoy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is from the diary of Test Operations Group team member, Petty Officer First Class Lodek Slowski. Everybody calls him Ski, of course. And this is what he had to say as a disclaimer. Yes, on the sub I was on, we did do some of the stuff we did, and we didn't do some of the other stuff we did, because if we did do it, it was secret, so we didn't really do it, even though we did. But not really. Those medals me and my shipmates got that we didn't get for doing what we didn't do that we did, I really got those, except not. But yeah, that's because we never went where we were, so we weren't there where we were. And even though we weren't where we were, we did do the stuff we didn't do while we weren't there not doing it. As for what boat we were on when we didn't go there on it and didn't do the stuff we did while not doing that either, apparently I'm not supposed to even mention the USS Toothus, because I guess I'm not allowed to refer to the Toothus for security reasons, so I won't do that. Mention the USS Toothus, I mean. The other stuff, it's okay for me not to mention that too. So the bottom line is that while we weren't on the USS Toothus, which I'm not going to mention, not doing what we were doing where we weren't, we didn't do that either. I hope this clarifies things for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's on first?
All right, we're talking to Robert G. Williscroft. Still got a couple of minutes to call in. Over on X Twitter, we got a couple of comments from Verwain Greenhoe. He says he's done 3 book signings, 2 here in Florida and 1 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and that every one of those was profitable. So that's good to know. Don't be discouraged, people. Get out there and try it. He also says it's always informative to listen to 2 authors with a lot of depth in their writing. If and you all are listening, there's some good tips in that kind of conversation. I agree, Verwain.
Yeah.
Okay, Robert G. Williscroft. We're starting to run low on time here, Robert. Let's do a quick hit of your Star Child series, the Star Child Saga. What's going on with that? The first 3 are out. IFS Federation going to be re-released here pretty soon. Tell us about the Star Child Saga.
Well, the Star Child Saga started out with a book that came to me while I was at the South Pole. I took some scientific papers with me to read and study. One of them was about something called a space launch loop, a method for getting into space using current technology that doesn't use rockets. It's an expensive infrastructure, but it can be done. And when I came back to the States from the South Pole, I went to visit the scientist who had developed the concept, and we spent several days together. Outlined the basis for a novel, and then I ended up writing the novel called Slingshot. And he, in the foreword, he describes the concept that once the mass that we're moving into space is sufficient, then the cost of building the infrastructure for a space launch loop will be less than what it would cost for someone like Elon Musk to continue sending rockets up. And so what we're looking forward to in the next few years is for this line to be crossed and Elon or somebody like him will be bending their attention to building a space launch loop. So that was the first book in the series. The next book, The Daedalus Files, describes the Navy SEALs developing a hard-shell wingsuit that they can deploy from low Earth orbit to anywhere on Earth. The hard-shell wingsuit actually exists, has been constructed by a consortium in Germany, and I've seen videos of flyers flying around aircraft in the hard-shell wingsuit. So this is moving along, and what I simply did was pick that up, connected it to the space launch loop, and told a rousing adventure story. The third book deals with Saturn's moon Iapetus. Iapetus is a very strange moon because it has a mountain ridge around its equator that's about 20 kilometers high and 20 kilometers wide. It looks almost like a walnut shell, and the density of Iapetus is about that of a snowball, except Iapetus is a solid rock moon. I got to asking myself, what would happen if it were hollow? Then all the numbers would work. And from that, I developed the story where it is a derelict starship, where the people the founders who were the original human beings came from another star system that was going nova and ended up in our star system and became our ancestors. And the fourth book in the series, the Iapetus Federation, moves on to where a major jihad takes place on the planet, on Earth, and everyone who can moves out into the solar system. The subtitle of that volume is called Exodus from Earth. And what it is a story of heroics, the terraforming of Mars, and the establishment of the human race throughout the solar system. There is a fifth book that is in the works. This book will be called Beyond the Beyond, and it will incorporate both of the two series, the Star Child Compact and the Oort Chronicles, and it will be the fifth book in both series and will bring the two series together into a grand saga stretching out to the very edge of the universe itself.
Wow, that's rather high-line-esque, isn't it? That's pretty cool.
So, Robert, go ahead, finish up.
I was just going to say that putting together the outline for Beyond the Beyond has been an amazing challenge.
How so?
Not bad.
Well, I'm dealing with two entirely different timelines, two entirely different universes, and finding ways of causing them to intersect that don't seem just pulled out of thin air or whole cloth, but actually make sense so that it all fits. And when it's all said and done, the reader sits back and says, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So, all right, I can understand that. Now, before we run out of time here, I understand you have a short story that won an award.
Yeah, I do. That was fun. I subscribe to lots of different things, and one of them is a magazine from the Navy Institute. And they came out, every year they have a fiction issue, and they decided to put it out to all of their subscribers. Can you guys come up with a story that incorporates the Navy, computers, training, and so forth? And I ended up creating a story about using virtual reality for training. And if you stop and think about it, we have people hacking virtually everything we've got, from the government down to your grandson's small computer. So wouldn't hackers maybe hack into a virtual reality training system? So we've got a bunch of saturation divers. It seems like they're actually in the water off of China doing some important stuff, but maybe they aren't. And you got to read the story to find out how it comes out.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
called Reality Hack. Reality Hack. It's available as an independent story on Amazon, and I won third prize nationally for that story.
Wow. Fantastic. Congratulations.
So Robert G. Williscroft, you got some advice for other writers out there?
Yeah, right. Right. Always right.
Couldn't think of anything
There's no such thing as writer's block. That's a myth.
Yeah.
Sit down and write. Put your hand on the keyboard and write.
Yeah. All right.
And although John disagrees with me, I think you should outline.
I agree.
So do I.
We
agree
chase
too.
that one around a lot, but yeah, I find that outlining works better, especially if you are doing subtle things like writing a whodunit, and you've got to kind of make all the bits and pieces come together at the right time. That works easier if you've outlined your story.
Oh, by far. Yeah.
And for whatever it's worth, I'm my PhD is in engineering. So, and my wife, Jill, who is my primary editor, is also an engineer. So we end up with some interesting discussions about some of the things I write about, and she helps me to get it down to the level where the average person can understand it.
Oh, good, yeah.
Robert, how about you remind everybody where it is that you're going to be appearing? And,
I will be at the Mile High Con in Denver at the Denver Tech Center Marriott Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you are not a subscriber to my mail list, all you got to do is go to my website, robertwilliscroft.com, and sign up for the list, and then you'll be notified of every event where I appear. And I won't spam you, not very much.
Yeah.
Not
so
very
how
much.
else do people find you, follow you, social media, get on your list, things like that?
Yeah. And you can, it all hinges, it all kind of starts at the hub, robertwilliscroft.com.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Okay, we've been talking to Robert G. Williscroft, author of the Starchild Saga series, the Orc Chronicles science fiction series, the Mac McDowell Mission Submarine Cold War Thriller series, plus some award-winning shorts and a lot of other stuff, too. So it's been fun having you on the show again, Robert.
It's been my pleasure, as always.
Yeah.
All right.
So what do we got happening next week on the podcast, Beem?
Well, next week it's going to kind of be a Halloween free-for-all. We're going to have a Halloween episode, which is going to be Jeeves and I just kind of gabbing. We're going to have you guys call in. Maybe we'll talk some ghost stories or something like that, but we'll talk books and all kinds of different stuff. And like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a free-for-all. Then the following week we will start getting back into bringing in guests. I have a few of them lined up that I got to make contact with, and keep your eyes and ears on the newsletter to find out.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Robert.
You're very welcome.
All right. See y'all later.
Goodbye.
In 1948, 8-year-old Kay is at Oakdale, the Lapeer State Home in Michigan, where people of all ages with physical and mental aberrations come to live. Kay wonders why she is here and if she will ever leave. She cares for an infant who will not let anyone else feed her, and she has friends, especially a boy her age she calls Toe. When Kay and Toe grow close as teens, she discovers the home has scheduled surgery that will change her life. With the clothes she's wearing and the file containing her life story, Kay flees late one dark night. Toe tries to chase after her, but a fateful accident robs him of the chance to seek the love of his life. Will Kay ever experience the kind of family she has longed for? Published in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions by Fresh Ink Group, Nell Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow is a historically accurate coming-of-age story about identity, belonging, and learning to choose one's own destiny. Read Nell Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow.
You're listening to The Voice of Indy.
Grief is a universal emotion. From the first caveman who lost a friend to someone who left us this morning, grief will be a part of our lives at some point. Everyone handles this powerful emotion differently. Some will grieve for a few weeks and then settle in and remember sweet memories, and some will grieve for years. There is no set method of grieving correctly. As a medic and then an ER nurse, Verwayne Greenhoe saw many people grieving. No one lives forever, but he learned to keep his words simple as he helped the families deal with their loss. In Dealing with Grief, Verwayne hopes you might find some comfort. Dealing with Grief is published in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions by multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group. Let Verwayne Greenhoe share his ideas and experiences with you for dealing with grief.
The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, a guide to leading authentically, is a guide intended to help leaders engage with their teams and build their skill sets authentically. The content in each weekly section is relatable to situations such as current events, sports, and music to convey analogous dialogue. Each week, the reader will capture their takeaways from reading the content, commit to a weekly charge in implementing actions, and finally, capture feedback from self-reflections and others in the weekly takeaways. The passages build over time, becoming more in-depth, allowing the leader to become comfortable with journaling, with passages to cover the year, as well as a bonus entry. The reader is set to evolve authentic and interpersonal leadership amongst others. From the multimedia publisher, Fresh Ink Group, The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, a guide to leading authentically by Janelle A. Jordan, is available in full-size hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.